Back in algebra, back in algebra 1, we learned how to find the slope of a line. We figured slope, but that's basically the common difference in an arithmetic sequence. That's pretty cool. Like that's something you guys have seen before. Now here, I want you guys to practice. Find the slope of each line. Find the slope of each line. In this case, remember, we used to call this the slope-intercept form. As a matter of fact, let me write this thing first. Slope-intercept form. And when you guys learn how to graph this, they said the first number that you see on the list, the first number that comes, the one that comes with the x, that's the slope. The second number you see included the signs, in this case, a +1, that's the y-intercept. And remember, you guys used to graph this easily. You guys will plug in the y-intercept, and then using the slope, you guys will find that second point and then graph a line. Now, as a matter of fact, you guys might even remember back in your algebra class, algebra 1, your teacher used the formula mx plus b. And your teacher said m, the number that comes with the x, that's the slope. And b, with the sign included, the number that comes by itself, that's the y-intercept. So we're going to call it slope-intercept form. And then some people, when I usually teach this, some people say, well, why do you use the m? There's no m in the word slope. Yeah, well, actually, m comes from the mountains. The slope of a mountain. As a matter of fact, the important thing of the slope, it tells me how to move. So I'm going to use the m because it tells me how to move. Now the y-intercept, we use the letter b because when you graph, that's where you begin, right? B for beginning. That's where the M and the B come from, in case you guys didn't know. But I'm going to do something really simple, right? Find the slope of each line. It's the number that comes with the X. In this case, 1/2. Now, how do we type 1/2? We're going to use the backslash. So you guys see your keyboard on the bottom right, there's a backslash. So I'm going to write 1 backslash 2. That's it. The slope, the common difference, right? In an arithmetic sequence, we call it common difference. In algebra 1, we call it slope. The slope is the number that comes with the x. Now, if there is a negative sign, right? If there's a negative on the top or the bottom of my fraction, bring it to the front. And let's take a look here at question number 14. The slope is the number that comes with the x. In this case, I see negative x. I only see a negative sign in front of the x. That is technically -1. So my slope in this case is as simple as just a -1. Sometimes my slope is a fraction, sometimes it's a whole number. Don't forget the sign though. Now, question number 15. Find the slope of the line through each pair of points. So we're given 2 points. I remembered, I'm pretty sure your algebra 1 teacher mentioned a formula, right? They said m for the slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Sometimes that as a student, we don't know where the 1 and the 2 come from. What the formula says is the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. That's really what it means. In reality, if we label our points, right, my first point, let me call it x1, y1. What that means is the x of the first point and the y of the first point. That's what the little one means. My second point, let me call it x2, y2. Again, the x of the second point and the y of the second point. If I had a third point, I will call it x3, y3. Right? That's simple. So for our formula, in reality, we have to go the second y minus the first y. So in this case, let me use red for the work. Let me go 13th minus a -18th over. Remember the second y minus the first y over. At the bottom, let me write 8 minus 3. Right? The second x minus the first x. On the top, I see 2 negative signs put together. 2 negative signs put together basically make a plus sign. So I have 13 plus 18. 13 plus 18 is 31. The bottom, 8 minus 3, That's 5. Now, my slope right now, it's a fraction, 31 over 5. It is okay to be an improper fraction. What I mean with improper is the big number is on top. It's okay. Improper fractions are fine. Now, always take a look if you can simplify your fraction. What I mean with simplify is, can you divide 31 and 5? Can you divide both numbers by the same thing? Just trying to make the number smaller. In this case, we cannot. There's nothing that goes into 31 and 5. So my answer is 31 over 5. The way I'm going to type this is 31 over 5. As I mentioned earlier, if there is a negative sign, it doesn't matter if the sign is on top or the bottom. If there is a negative sign, bring it to the front. So for example, this was a negative answer. I would have said negative, bring the negative to the front, and then 31 over 5. It doesn't matter if the negative comes from the top or the bottom, bring it to the front, right? My case is just positive, but I was saying if it was a negative, bring it to the front. All right, let's take a look at question number 16. Remember, the way I'm going to label this, I'm going to say x1, y1. The x of the first point, the y of the first point. x2, y2. The x of the second point, the y of the second point. And remember the formula, y2 minus y1 over the second x minus the first x. Okay, let's get to work. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to go negative 16, right? The second y minus a negative 2 over negative 9 minus a negative 10. On the top, I see two negative signs put together, so that's a plus. Negative 16 plus 2, that's a negative 14. All right, signs are different, so I subtract, keep the sign of the large one. At the bottom, I see two negative signs put together. Negative 9 plus 10 is positive 1. Now, here I can simplify. Anything over 1 stops being a fraction, right? Negative 14 over 1 is just a negative 14. Got to simplify. Negative 14. If you type in negative 14 over 1, you will see that your homework marks are incorrect. And the reason why it's because it is not simplified. All right, so let's take a look at number 17. We're finding the slope. Find the slope of the line. It would be nice if I had 2 points on the line. I'm going to come up with points here. The points that you can use is, right, it's not just a random point. It's the point. You guys see how I have x, the x-axis and the y-axis, but I also have lines that go parallel to the x-axis, and I have lines that go parallel to the y-axis. I'm going to choose a point such that it is on the intersection of my lines. So I can choose this point. Another point that I can choose is this one, and I could even choose this one. Right? Those are the points that I can choose. If you notice the line, I can see the point right where it crosses. Usually what I tell people is the points where you can easily see the coordinates of each point. Notice how the coordinates of my point on the left are -4, -1. Right? I can see the coordinates. My second point is -1, -3. And my third point, the coordinates are +2, -5. Any other point, you don't know the coordinates, right? So make sure those are the points you can choose. It doesn't matter which 2 points, right? You only need 2 points. It doesn't matter which 2 points you get. We could get the coordinates of the point. I'm going to choose, let's say, this point and this point. Those are the points I'm going to choose. Except choose any 2. I could find the coordinates of the points and do them just like I did questions 15 and 16. Or I can use the graph. Remember, slope, it tells me how to move. So I'm going to go from one point to the other. First of all, it seems like I have to go down. My first thing I'm going to see is, do I go up or down? The way I'm doing is I'm traveling from one point to the other. So it seems like I'm going down, and I'm going down 4 spaces. So I'm going to call this -4. If I was going up, I would have said positive. So First thing I write on my fraction here, it is -4. I'm going down 4. And then I go to the right. I count how many squares, and I happen to go 6 squares. So in reality, when my slope says go down 4 and 6 to the right, just as a reminder, my number on the top tells me up or down. Up if it's positive, down if it's negative. My number at the bottom tells me right or left. To the right if it's positive, or to the left if it's negative. So that's why I said my slope here says 4 down, 6 to the right. Now, I gotta simplify my slope though. If possible, gotta simplify. So I see a negative sign, and I said earlier, bring it to the front. It doesn't matter if it's on the top or the bottom, bring it to the front. Number-wise, 4 and 6, I think I can divide each by 2. So that's gonna give me 2 over 3. I divided each number by 2. So that's it. My slope is a -2 over 3. Let's take a look at question number 18. Let's see, which points can I use? I can use this point, I can use this point, this one, or this one. It doesn't matter which one which two you choose. I'm gonna, just to choose points, I'm gonna choose this one, and let's go with this one. Right? It doesn't matter which two. Once we simplify, we're all gonna get the same answer anyway. So first thing, I see that it's going down, and I notice that it's going down 6 spaces, right? We can count the squares. So going down 6. And then I go to the right 2 spaces. There's a negative sign, so I'm going to bring it to the front. 6 over 2, right? I can divide each number by 2. So it's going to give me 3 over 1. Not only do I get my number smaller, but remember I said earlier, anything over 1 stops being a fraction. So my answer is still a negative, right? The negative in front of it, but 3 over 1 is just 3. Anything over 1 stops being a fraction. So my answer is -3. Now, for us to remember a little what we saw yesterday, evaluate each arithmetic series described. A couple of things I need to know. I need to know my first number on my list. Right? We just saw this yesterday, but we're going to practice again. I need to know what's my last number on my list, and I need to know how many numbers I'm adding. My first number in the list is a -32, and I'm adding 16 numbers. Or -32, -38, -44, -50. I want you to do 16 numbers on the list. We can do it the long way, right? Find the 16 numbers on the list and then add them all up. But I mentioned that Gauss, he came out with a formula, and that's the formula that I'm going to use. First of all, let me find out what's the difference. What's the common difference? I'm going to say in this case, -6. I subtract 6 each time. The way I figure out what was the common difference, I pick the number and subtract the number before. All right, so I'm going to use the common difference to find what's the last number on my list. My first number is a -32. And I'm going to subtract 6, right? The common difference. I'm going to subtract 6 15 times. All right, I want the 16th number in the list, but I start using my common difference starting from the second number. So that's why I do it only 15 times, right? Remember, we use the formula n-1. So I happen to get that my last number is a -122. Remember, I need to know what's my first number, what's the last number, and how many numbers I'm adding. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add the first and the last number. So -32 plus a -122. I'm going to multiply this by how many numbers I'm adding, in this case, 16. And I'm always going to divide my result by 2. -154 times 16 divided by 2 is a -1,000 232. So if you guys don't believe my formula, figure out the first 16 numbers on the list, grab a calculator, add them all up, and you're going to get negative 1,232. Let's take a look at question number 20. I need to know what's the first numbered on my list. So the first, the last numbered on my list, and then how many numbers I'm adding. My first number on the list is 18. And I'm adding 14 numbers, right? N equals 14. In order for me to find out what's the last number of my list, I need to know the common difference. From 18 to 27, I added something, From 27 to 36, I added the same thing. And then from 36 to 45, I added the same thing. You can already tell, great. That's a common difference. If you cannot tell, choose a number from the list and subtract the previous number. So in my mind, I'm looking at 27. If I had to choose the second number, 27 minus 18 gives me a positive 9. So that's my common difference. I'm adding 9 each time. Again, I need that in order for me to find out what's the last number on the list. The way I figure out what's the last number, I go 18, which is the first number, and I'm going to add 9 13 times. All right, I want the 14th number. Remember, n minus 1. 18 times 9, 18 plus 9 times 13. Remember to multiply before you add. My last number on the list is 135. All right, so in order for me to evaluate this sequence, I'm going to add the first number and the last number. So 18 plus 135. I'm going to multiply this by how many numbers I'm adding. So in this case, 14. In my result, I'm going to divide it by 2. 153 times 14 divided by 2 gives me 1,071. Remember, I'm always just an email away, so if you need help, let me know.